There's something undeniably powerful about a woman who chooses her own company, not because she's bitter, not because she's antisocial, but because she has tasted the quiet and realized it was never empty. She's a woman who knows herself deeply, and that depth didn't come easy. Most people spend their lives surrounded by noise friends who don't listen, partners who don't understand, society that's constantly telling them who to be. It's easy to get lost in the crowd when all you're doing is trying to belong to it. But this woman, she stepped back. Maybe life forced her to. Maybe she outgrew the people around her. Maybe the pain of betrayal made her question everyone and everything, including herself. But instead of running from that pain, she sat with it. She didn't rush to fill the silence with someone else's voice. She didn't reach for the first distraction. She let the silence speak, and it did. It told her the truth she had never been brave enough to face. She didn't really know herself, not fully, not beyond the labels, not beyond the roles she was expected to play: daughter, girlfriend, colleague, best friend. So she stripped those roles away, one by one, like layers of clothing that no longer fit, and what she found underneath was raw, uncertain, unpolished, but real. It's a terrifying thing to meet yourself without the filters, to face your insecurities without anyone cushioning the blow, to realize that some of the stories you've been telling yourself about who you are were never yours to begin with. They were hand-me-downs from people who never truly saw you. But she did it. She stared into the mirror, not just to fix her hair or check her lipstick, but to ask the real questions. What do I want? What do I believe in? What am I afraid of? And even more importantly, who am I when no one's watching? That kind of self-interrogation isn't romantic. It's not glamorous. It's a process that humbles you, but it also frees you, because the more she discovered about herself, the less she needed from others. She stopped chasing validation because she started giving it to herself. She stopped people pleasing because she started honoring her own needs, and she stopped tolerating the kind of relationships that required her to shrink in order to be loved. She realized she had been taught to make herself small, to not take up too much space, to not ask for too much, to not speak too loudly or dream too big. But in the silence, with no one around to police her, she allowed herself to expand. And in that expansion, she found her truth. She's not flawless. She still has bad days. She still doubts herself sometimes. But the difference is she knows where those doubts come from now. They don't define her. They don't derail her, because she has a compass inside her now, one that doesn't swing based on other people's opinions. When a woman knows herself deeply, she doesn't get easily manipulated. She doesn't crumble when someone walks away. She doesn't cling to friendships that drain her, and that kind of clarity, that's a superpower, one that's born not in the spotlight, but in the quiet corners of solitude. You might see her sitting alone and think she's lonely. She's not. She's at peace. She's in tune. She's doing the kind of inner work that most people avoid their whole lives. And when she steps out into the world, she carries herself with a calm strength, not loud, not performative, but grounded. She knows what she brings to the table, so she's not afraid to eat alone. She's learned that not all company is good company, that having 100 names in your contact list means nothing if none of them understand the real you. That sometimes the loneliest place is in a crowd that doesn't truly see you, so she chose a different path, one where she sees herself clearly, and in that clarity she found purpose, she found power. She found a kind of love that isn't dependent on anyone else showing up, because she's already there for herself. Every damn day. People might not understand her. They might label her as cold, distant, or difficult. Let them, because she's not here to be understood. She's here to live her truth, and her truth is this: she doesn't need a room full of friends to feel whole. She just needs to stay rooted in who she is. And that's not loneliness, that's liberation. People often underestimate a quiet woman. They mistake her silence for submission, her stillness for weakness. They assume that if she isn't loud, she must not have much to say. But that's where they get it wrong, because this woman, her silence isn't empty, it's strategic. She's not the one to dominate a room just to prove she belongs in it. She doesn't need to be the loudest voice to be heard. In fact, she's learned that silence is sometimes the sharpest tool in the box. It cuts through noise, it observes, it waits, and when it speaks, it lands like thunder. This woman doesn't speak just to fill air. She speaks when it matters. She understands the weight of her words, and she refuses to waste them. In a world where everyone is broadcasting their every thought, every mood, every opinion for likes and validation, she stays quiet not because she lacks opinion, but because she knows the value of timing. She's always listening, not just to the words, but to what's behind them, the tone, the intent, the inconsistencies. Her silence gives her the power of observation. While others rush to respond, she reads the room. She absorbs the energy. She watches how people treat others when no one's looking. She watches how they treat her when they think she won't notice. And trust me, she notices everything. People forget that silence is where power builds. Just like storms don't start with a bang, they start with pressure. A shift in the air, her silence is full of tension, thought, calculation. She's processing, she's preparing, she's measuring the moment, deciding if it deserves her voice, her energy, her truth. It takes a different kind of strength to hold your tongue when you know you could destroy someone with the truth. It takes restraint, maturity, and this woman has mastered that. She's not silent because she's scared. She's silent because she's secure, and when you're secure, you don't argue to be right, you choose peace over performance. And don't be mistaken, she's not silent in her life. She's just selective. She knows when to speak up and when to let silence do the heavy lifting. She knows when to walk away without a speech and when to say just one sentence that will shift the entire room. This kind of woman doesn't need a big entrance. Her presence is enough. People feel her power before she even opens her mouth, and when she does finally speak, it's with intention, precision. It's not noise, it's impact. She doesn't talk over people, she speaks so clearly that people fall silent just to listen. That's the difference. She doesn't demand attention, she commands it. Her silence isn't passive, it's active. It's a choice, a boundary, a filter. She doesn't react to every insult, every slight, every bit of drama that's thrown her way. That's not her game. She saves her energy for what matters. She's learned that not every fight deserves a warrior, and not every critic deserves a response, because deep down she knows who she is. And when you know who you are, you don't need to constantly explain yourself. Her silence is not permission, it's not weakness, it's strength wrapped in discipline. It says, I see you, but you're not worth my words right now. People often think they've won when she stays silent. They think her calm means defeat. What they don't know is that her silence is the calm before she makes a move, and when she moves, it's final. She's not one to go back and forth. She decides and she executes. Quietly, powerfully, on her own terms. This is the kind of woman who walks away mid-sentence not because she can't fight, but because she's already chosen herself. She refuses to beg for decency, to explain her worth, or to educate people who have already chosen to misunderstand her. Her silence protects her. It shields her from the chaos, from the noise, from the people who want a reaction just to feel powerful. She denies them that power. That's strategy, that's control, and when she finally breaks the silence, when she finally speaks her truth, the room shifts. Because by then, people know she didn't speak because she had to. She spoke because she chose to, and that choice, that's where the magic lies. So don't underestimate the silent woman. Don't assume her stillness means she's behind. Don't confuse her quiet for consent. She's just playing a different game, a smarter one, a quieter one where the win isn't about being seen, but about staying centered in a world that demands constant noise. She holds her silence the way a queen holds her crown, not because she can't put it down, but because she knows exactly when and how to wear it. And when the time is right, she speaks, and the world listens. There's a rare kind of woman who doesn't need an audience to build her empire. She's not in it for the noise, the applause, or the constant reassurance. She's not checking if anyone is watching. She's too busy doing the work. This woman she builds without distraction. While the world is busy posting every small win, every curated highlight, Every copper-fueled idea she's working in the background, quietly, consistently. Deliberately. You won't always see a process. You won't get updates every 5 minutes. But when she finally shows you what she's been building, it's already done, solid, real, and powerful. She doesn't get lost in comparison. She's not scrolling endlessly through other people's lives wondering where she stands. She doesn't measure her progress against timelines built for someone else. She knows herself too well for that. She's learned to put her blinders on not because she's unaware of the world, but because she's focused on her own path. And that path, it's hers, entirely, built brick by brick with her own hands, her own ideas, her own sweat. She's not waiting for permission. She's not chasing trends. She's not building to prove anything to anyone else. She's building because something inside her won't let her sit still, a vision, a fire. A purpose that keeps her moving, even when no one is cheering. The distractions are always there, people who want to pull her into drama, voices that whisper doubt, the pressure to perform for the world instead of creating from the heart. But she's trained herself to tune it out, because she knows how easily you can lose yourself in the noise. She knows how tempting it is to pause your progress just to prove your worth. But she doesn't play that game. Her worth is not up for debate. Every day she wakes up with intention. Not every day is perfect. Not every step is easy, but she keeps going. She knows the power of momentum. She knows that while others are talking about what they're going to do, she's already doing it. There's nothing flashy about discipline. It's not sexy. It's not loud, but it works, and she's living proof of that. She's not distracted by people who don't understand her. She's not chasing validation from crowds who never built anything themselves. She understands that not everyone will get her journey, and that's okay. That's not who she's building for. She's building for the woman she's becoming, the one who will look back one day and thank her for not giving up. And because she's free from distraction, she's also free to innovate, to think deeply, to challenge herself. She has the mental space to dream, not just dream, but plan. She's not constantly reacting to the world. She's creating something new. She's shaping her own world, and that takes clarity. That takes isolation sometimes. That takes courage. There's a confidence that comes from knowing exactly what you're working toward. She doesn't need a crowd to tell her she's on the right track. She feels it. She sees it in the progress, in the subtle shifts, in the goals quietly getting crossed off. It's not always public, but it's always real. And when she builds things that last, not quick wins, not things that look good on paper but fall apart under pressure. No, she builds with depth, with care, with vision. Whether it's her career, her body, her mind, her art, or her peace, she's not rushing the process. She's honoring it. There's power in that kind of patience, in staying committed even when no one else is watching, in doing the hard, boring, necessary things when the rest of the world is distracted by what's trending. That's how she wins, quietly, steadily, and completely on her own terms. She's not just building things, she's building herself. Every challenge she overcomes adds a layer of strength. Every boundary she enforces sharpens her clarity. Every failure she learns from becomes a foundation stone, and slowly, without distractions clouding her focus, she's becoming unstoppable. People will notice eventually. They'll ask how she did it, how she came so far without them even seeing it happen. But by then, she won't need to explain. Her results will speak for her. Her presence will carry the weight of all the work she put in, and those who once overlooked her will have no choice but to pay attention. But she won't be building for their recognition. She never was. She builds because she has a calling. She builds because she has a standard. She builds because she knows her purpose won't fulfill itself. And she knows that staying focused, even when the world tries to pull her in 100 directions, is the ultimate act of self-respect. So while the world spins louder and faster, she keeps her head down and her heart steady. She's building, and she won't stop. There's a kind of freedom that most people only dream of, the freedom to live without needing anyone's approval, to wake up in the morning and know that your worth isn't hanging in the balance of someone else's opinion. This woman lives in that freedom. She's not waiting for applause. She's not waiting for permission. She's immune to approval, and that makes her dangerous in the best way. She didn't start out that way. Like most of us, she grew up being told to be good, to be liked, to be the kind of girl who makes everyone comfortable. Approval was currency. It was the invisible measuring stick for how well she was doing at home, at school, in relationships. Smile politely, don't rock the boat, make everyone happy, even if you're falling apart inside. But somewhere along the way, she woke up. Maybe it was a heartbreak, a betrayal, a moment where she realized she had bent so far trying to please everyone else that she didn't recognize herself anymore. She had been shaping her identity around other people's expectations, and it was exhausting. It was never enough. No matter how perfectly she performed, there was always someone who wanted her smaller, quieter, easier to digest. So she stopped apologizing for wanting more. She stopped asking for permission to exist as she was raw, complicated, powerful. She stripped off the layers of approval, seeking like old clothes that no longer fit. And what she found underneath was someone she actually liked, someone strong, someone real, someone who didn't need to be liked by everyone, just respected by herself. Now, when people offer opinions about who she should be or how she should live, she listens, but she doesn't absorb. She filters. She asks, does this align with who I am, with where I'm going, with what I value? If the answer is no, she lets it go. No explanation, no drama, just a quiet, confident decision to stay true to herself. This woman doesn't chase validation. She doesn't dress for compliments or speak to be applauded. She's not molding herself into the version of a woman that society finds most palatable. She's not interested in being palatable. She's interested in being authentic. Because when you stop living for approval, you start living for truth. You make braver choices. You take bolder steps. You stop worrying about whether people will get it. And you start focusing on whether it gets you closer to where you want to be. She's immune to approval not because she's arrogant, but because she's grounded. She's done the inner work. She knows who she is, what she values, what she brings to the table. And when you know that you become untouchable in the most graceful way. She's walked away from rooms where she wasn't celebrated, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. She's said no to opportunities that came with strings attached to her identity. She's stayed silent when speaking up would have meant compromising her soul. And she's spoken up when silence would have betrayed her truth, not for claps, not for likes, for her own damn integrity. People don't always understand her. That's fine. She's not here to be understood by everyone. She's not a brand. She's a human being, and complex, unapologetic ones don't always fit neatly into people's expectations. She's okay with that. She's not here to be admired for how perfectly she plays the part. She's here to write her own script, even if that means being misunderstood, even if it means walking alone, even if it means people whisper about her behind her back. Let them. Her back was built strong for that very reason. Being immune to approval doesn't mean she never feels fear or doubt. It means she knows how to move through them without needing someone else to tell her she's doing okay. She's built that voice inside herself, the one that says, keep going, even when the outside world is silent. And ironically, that's what draws people to her, not her conformity, but her courage, not her compliance, but her conviction. She gives other people permission to be real just by being herself. That's leadership. That's power. So no, she's not cold. She's not aloof. She's just done playing small for people who are uncomfortable with her strength. She's not here to be palatable, likable, or pleasing. She's here to be honest, to be real, to be free. And the truth is, the minute you stop needing approval, the world loses its grip on you. Suddenly, you don't fear rejection, you welcome it. You don't chase belonging, you create it. You don't ask, will they like me? You ask, do I like me? And when the answer is yes, that's all the approval you'll ever need. That's who she is, and that's who she'll always be. Some women wait for someone to cheer them on, to be told they're beautiful, capable, worthy, to be noticed, affirmed, chosen. But this woman, she doesn't wait for that. She doesn't need a spotlight to feel seen. She doesn't need clapping hands to feel powerful, because she's her own hype squad, and that's exactly how she keeps winning. Every morning she gets up and reminds herself who the hell she is, not with arrogance but with clarity. Because the world will try to make her forget. It will try to shrink her confidence, chip away at her belief, dim her light so others can feel more comfortable in their shadow. But she doesn't let it. She's learned to speak life into herself when the world stays silent. She doesn't need a stage to feel worthy. She is the stage. She's the woman who looks in the mirror and sees more than flaws or aging skin or imperfections. She sees progress, she sees power, she sees a story written in grit and resilience. She sees someone who has survived things that would have broken others, someone who didn't give up, someone who kept showing up for herself when no one else did. And for that alone, she celebrates herself. She's the one whispering to herself in the bathroom before the meeting, "You've got this." She's the one walking into the room like she belongs there, not because anyone told her she does, but because she decided she does. That's her energy, self-made, self-backed, and entirely self-fueled. She doesn't wait for someone else to post about her accomplishments. She celebrates her wins, even the small ones. She doesn't downplay her success just to make other people feel comfortable. She claps for herself loudly, and she's not afraid to shine because she knows her light doesn't take away from anyone else's. This woman has mastered the art of self-validation. She knows how to root for herself in silence, how to build herself up on hard days, how to remind herself of her vision when everything feels uncertain. That's the thing about being your own hype squad. It's not about ego, it's about survival. It's about knowing that if you don't believe in yourself, you give everyone else the power to define you. She doesn't rely on others to tell her she's enough. She decided she is. She doesn't chase compliments or approval, not because she doesn't appreciate support, but because she's no longer dependent on it. She knows that people are fickle. They praise you when you succeed and forget you when you struggle. So she's learned to be consistent for herself, loyal to herself, kind to herself, and when life knocks her down, because it does, often she doesn't stay down waiting for someone to lift her up. She wipes her own tears, fixes her crown, and reminds herself of every single time she's risen before. That's what keeps her grounded. That's what keeps her strong. That's what keeps her going when everyone else quits. She's the woman who takes herself out to dinner, buys herself flowers, congratulates herself in the mirror, not because she's lonely, but because she refuses to treat herself like a backup plan. She doesn't need someone to show up for her to feel loved. She shows up for herself every damn day. There's a fire in her that no one else lit and no one else can extinguish. She's walked through rejection, failure, heartbreak, and disappointment. And through it all, she learned that the one person who will never walk out on her is the one in the mirror. So she invests in that relationship like her life depends on it, because in a way it does. Being her own hype squad means she's unshakable. People's opinions can't move her. Trends don't sway her. One bad day doesn't derail her. She's not looking outside for validation. She's looking inward for alignment. That's why she doesn't burn out trying to be everything to everyone. She knows her pace, her rhythm, her why. She surrounds herself with people who get it, people who uplift, not compete. But even if they disappear, she doesn't fall apart. Because she's never relied on borrowed energy, she generates her own, and when she walks into a room, you can feel it, that confidence, that glow, that quiet inner voice hyping her up. She doesn't need to say much. Her presence says it all. I know who I am. I know what I bring. I've got me. So no, she's not waiting for you to clap. She already did. She clapped when she started. She clapped when she failed. She clapped when no one noticed the work she was doing in silence. She clapped every time she chose herself, even when it was the harder choice. Because she knows this life, her life, is not a popularity contest. It's a journey of becoming. And every time she believes in herself a little more, The world has no choice but to catch up. That's the kind of woman she is. She's her own hype squad, and she's unstoppable because of it. She doesn't need anyone to complete her. She's not searching for someone to save her, or fix her, or give her life meaning. She's already whole, already powerful, already walking tall in her purpose. So when she chooses someone, whether as a friend, a partner, or an ally, I understand this, it's real, it's not out of desperation. It's not because she's lonely, it's not because she's afraid of being alone. She's not clinging to connection out of fear, she's offering it from a place of strength, because this woman, she's learned how to be by herself. She's made peace with her own company. She knows how to sit in silence and still feel full. That's what makes her love so different, so deep, so sacred. She doesn't choose lightly. She's spent years filtering out what drains her. She knows the cost of keeping the wrong people close, the emotional tax, the energy loss, the slow erosion of self. She's let people go, walked away from chaos, cut ties that used to feel like lifelines. So if she chooses you now after all that, it's because you bring peace, not confusion, because your presence feels safe, not suffocating. She's not impressed by surface-level charm, not moved by promises or flattery. She's seen too much, grown through too much. She's the kind of woman who listens with her instincts, watches actions, not just words. She notices how you treat people when no one's watching. She sees through the masks. And if she still leans in after that, that's real. When she lets you in, she's not just sharing her time, she's sharing her soul. Her thoughts, her vulnerabilities, the raw parts of her most people never get to see. And she expects honesty in return, not perfection, not performance, just realness. If you can meet her there, if you can hold space for who she truly is, she will give you a kind of loyalty this world doesn't teach anymore. This woman, she doesn't love halfway. She doesn't show up conditionally. When she's in, she's all in, present, devoted, protective. She will believe in you when you forget how to believe in yourself. She will challenge you when you're playing small. She will celebrate your growth like it's her own, and no, she doesn't expect praise for that. It's just who she is. She gives deeply because her love is rooted in depth. But make no mistake, she doesn't need you. That's the beauty of it. She chooses you, freely, intentionally, and that choice, that's everything. Because this world is full of people who love with strings attached, who offer affection as currency, tied to conditions and expectations. But she's not like that. If she's in your life, it's because she wants to be, not because she needs validation or a role to play. She's already validated. She's already chosen herself 1,000 times over. And here's the thing, when you're chosen by a woman who doesn't need anyone, it hits different, because you know it's not about dependency. It's about resonance, alignment, mutual respect. There's no pressure to perform, just permission to be. She doesn't romanticize chaos. She won't beg for love. If something feels off, she'll step back, observe, protect her peace. Not out of coldness, but out of wisdom. She's learned that love without respect is just control, that chemistry without consistency is just noise. So if she gives you her trust, know that it's been earned, not blindly handed out. And she'll expect the same from you, not perfection but presence, not grand gestures but genuine care. She doesn't want someone to complete her, she wants someone who complements her, who grows with her, who understands that love is not just a feeling but a choice, a decision, a daily commitment. Don't mistake her independence for emotional distance. She feels deeply, loves fiercely, but she doesn't express it in performative ways. Her love is subtle, steady, real. It's in the check-ins, the quiet encouragement, the space she holds when you're falling apart, the way she sees you, really sees you, even when you're not at your best. And if she ever walks away, know that it wasn't impulsive, it wasn't petty. It was probably a decision made in silence after too many chances, because she gives her all, but once she realizes her energy is being taken for granted, she'll reclaim it. Not with drama, but with dignity. So if she chooses you, honor that. Show up for it. Understand the rarity of it, because this isn't a woman who plays games. This isn't a woman who entertains temporary people. This is a woman who's building something lasting, and if she's invited you in, that's not just affection, that's trust. And trust from a woman like her, that's gold, that's sacred, that's real. She doesn't need you. She chooses you, and that makes all the difference.